Hey YouTube, I'd like to make a follow-up video on my P-01 Omega that had a failure to eject, which caused a mechanical failure of the firearm. To get into it, just talk about actually how the Omega series breaks down. Basically, you have your ejector here, and this is the only firearm I've seen where you actually can press down on it, but that's actually a locking mechanism. There's a little groove inside the decocker lever that when you press this out of, it allows it to move. So basically, you just press down on that decocker lever, and then you can come in here on your decocker and wiggle it free, and then it'll pop free. I'm not going to take it all out because, well, that's what the whole video is about. So then put it back in, just slide it back in, and you just got to make sure that the spring right there is underneath that lip. I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. But now I'll get into the issues of actually what happened. So I'm just going to put the slide on here just to show you kind of what it is. And it's only the slide. I don't put the barrel on anything, that way it doesn't like smash the hand when it comes slamming back home. But as you can see, the cocker's just hanging out there. This is when it goes back. Anyway, I had a failure to eject. I don't know why it didn't eject, but the round got stuck up on top of the ejector, so it was sitting right on top of that, pushing that lever down. And the problem is when it got pushed down, the way I did this is I ejected the magazine out, then racked the slide and sent it home. But if I pushed that twice, this thing came out of battery. That's because that little nodule right there on the decocker, right here, came out of the position. There's a little groove that slides it in there. Anyway, that caused it so when this thing did fly home, it goes in the up position, and this thing is out of battery. Trigger will not work. So how do you fix this? Well, assuming that spring that I talked about earlier is okay, you just push this down and then push it in on the other side. Now it'll snap back in, you're all good and go. But this should never happen. This is a design fault. So let me talk about how to go about putting this decocker if that spring does fly off. So we'll go ahead and take out the part, like I said, and if this spring right here, for whatever reason, if it slips off and gets too far out, first off you got to make sure that this part isn't there. And you're sitting there, now you have no actuation, there's nothing that's actually holding it down. This is where I haven't found anything on YouTube that actually shows how to do it, so the easiest way I found is you basically put it back together. So say this thing is completely apart, and it came all the way out. You actually have to push down on your extractor, get these parts so they're kind of lined up. You push down on your extractor, and it'll lock in with the left hand side or right hand side, and you push down on that and work it in. As you see, the spring is still out. At this point I haven't engaged this nodule right here into the frame, so I just pull this up, and there's this spring right here, and you just loop it back around. So you just do it with your finger and make sure it's underneath there, and then slowly back this out so your nodule isn't going to scrape your frame, and pull it down, and then snap it in place, and it's good to go. But we still have the same issue where all it takes is a couple of pumps of this thing with the slide on, because it's actually putting a side load on this that'll actually pop that free. And I believe that this is an issue for not only the P-01 Omega, but for any of the Omegas, so the P-07, the P-09, any of those. This is a big issue that CZ needs to address immediately. The way this differs from the standard 75B, which is a lot other than the lock work, the extractor doesn't move on the standard 75B, and there is a spring that is retaining this whole part, but it doesn't actuate with anything, so it's just sitting there pressing down on it. So your decocker lever isn't going to be moving. The only thing I can see CZ doing is either making a extractor that has two parts that you need to press down to pull this thing out, or putting a C-clip washer or something like that that actually will retain this, so that in the event this does get notched down, it's not going to be shooting out to the side. Anyway, I'm going to be sending this video to them, and I'll keep you posted on what exactly happens and what comes from it, but just wanted to let everybody know that's the story. And this did happen. When I was firing, this was a mechanical failure. This was a verified failure. So, anywho, talk to y'all later.